Good evening, everybody.
Let's go, man. How's it going?
Doing pretty good, just been, checking in the latest and the greatest of the veteran community, seeing how folks are tonight. Good evening, Sarah. Welcome to the show. We are W.A.R. We are resilient, and we're just going through the motions here, and it seems like it's that time of year again where veterans start the infighting with each other, saying, the whole, you're only a veteran if you do this. Only these people deserve VA benefits. Everybody's committing VA fraud, and it's just we're the biggest critics of ourselves, and our own worst enemies, where it comes to we're not looking out for one another, and we're trying to chop each other down. All these chances we get, not realizing how small of a community we really are, and how much we should be, lifting one another up instead of, cutting each other down.
Well, I mean, I didn't serve in combat, right? You know that. And I've had people come up to me and say, hey, you don't deserve a dime from the VA. You shouldn't be claiming anything ever. And you're just asking because you didn't serve in combat. You're not a veteran either. I mean, what's your take on that?
That absolutely blows my mind. That people, think that is one, an acceptable take, and two, have the audacity to say that to a fellow veteran. You signed the contract. You went where Uncle Sam told you to go, and you did your duty to the best of your ability to live up to the contract that you signed. And we all did that. We didn't choose what the Department of Defense did with our jobs. We didn't choose all these guys that joined as Cav Scouts, and they got reclassed as infantrymen and got reclassed as military police. They didn't choose to to have the MOS go away and have to be something completely different. As soon as I know, didn't you have something similar? Your MOS was like obliterated as soon as you came in.
Well, I mean, I chose an MLS field of aviation support, thinking that I'd be on a ship somewhere or an aircraft carrier doing for LVL, I think is what it's called. Doing support for aircraft. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't ask to get stuck in Yuma for, all that time. I didn't ask for that at all. But, here we are. And I'm like, I went where I was told. I did what I was ordered. Was I a great Marine? I won't say I was a great Marine, but I followed orders, did what I had to do. And, until I couldn't do it anymore.
And to me, that's what the mission was. And folks that, say only only combat, only deployment, personnel deserve the benefits. It's like, no matter what you did, no matter what your position was, it was still a 24/7, job. You still had to do the after hours, be in charge of the post, do your, charge of quarters, do your, fire watch, you had to do all these things. And then you also had, the stress of the ruck marches, all the field exercises, all the, additional nonsense that comes with being in the military, being, the world's janitor. They teach us, how to clean stuff real well. And, the other thing that I always thought too was, they make us, into a real good, house, person to be able, take care of the home, because they teach you how to, clean the barracks. They teach you how to, shine the boots and get the walls clean up the scuff marks and, all these things that, you wouldn't have learned, but, you learn how to maintain your area and make it ready for, when you have the dog and pony show, make it ready for, the day-to-day operations, and all of that, is added in. When you're in the service, you can't just call out sick. If you're not feeling well, you got to go see doc first. and then doc sends you a letter to go to sick call. Then you go see the medical corps in there, and they determine all right, you're gonna be on quarters for 24 hours. No, you're just gonna have some motion, some water, and get back to duty. And people don't understand that, like, if you woke up and you're not feeling well, you gotta wake up 2 hours before you only would, so that way you can go through the motions and do this. It's not like a normal job, and it's not like if like somebody was a cook, it's not like comparable to them being a Taco Bell cook. It's not that they're doing their job, but they're also doing the job of a soldier. They're a service member first, and then they have the MOS. I think people forget that.
They can forget it. I mean, I know what I did. I can show my ED 214 to anybody. Again, I've never said that I was a super awesome, great Marine. I'm not going to say that, but I graduated boot camp. I graduated Hawk School. I did the job to the best of my ability as long as I could, and yeah, I tell people all the time, I was in the Marine Corps a long time. But what I got out of the Marine Corps has stayed with me the rest of my life and really done well for me.
Absolutely. You put it in, like you said, you serve to your ability, you serve, what you sign up for. Like, there are people that, do 2-year stints, there are people that do, 20-year stints, and doesn't matter, which one you do. You could do the 2 years in your first duty station. It's going to be a deployment. It's going to be, out on float. It's going to be, spending, the entire time, going from port to port. And like, then you could have a guy that's, done 20 years in. And, for example, a friend of mine was a firefighter in the Marine Corps. He went down to Cherry Point. When he first got there, he was too green to be going on the deployments. And then the next time the deployment cycle came around, he was now in charge of the firefighting section. So now he was too seasoned now and responsible. And the younger guys were sent out this time. So like, he missed the tour because he was too new, and then because he was too, seasoned and in that position now. So he wasn't able to be able to go overseas. So he did his 6 years in the Marine Corps, and then got out and came back up here. And he always had that feeling of like, during the Global War on Terror, like he didn't feel like he was part of it. And like I explained to him, you're not competing with other veterans for your benefits. You're not competing with other people for the promise that you were given to be able to work, be able to get an education, be able to get retrained if you need to, because your injuries affect your ability to work at the job that you had before you went on, or you need some skills. And you go and get, education benefits, or you get technical schools, and like you have these rights and you have these benefits that you've earned, and you're not taking it away from somebody else by you using it.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm like, I try to tell some people, I'm like, look, there was a time where because people weren't paying attention, changes were made very easily. And you look at this last thing that happened, where they tried reclassifying, hey, if you were hurting and we fixed you, you're not hurting anymore, you're okay, we're going to cut you off. That was going to go through pretty easily until we all came together and said, no, it's not. So, it just shows that we all got together.
And go ahead, David, if you got a question, send it away. Being Canadian, there's a lot that we did, with multinational forces. That's one of the cool things I always thought about the armed services, was doing those international joint task force. And whether it was a NATO mission like Bosnia, Kosovo, or just joint training where like the Mass National Guard, we were connected with Panama. So Panamanian soldiers would come up here every 3 to 5 years and do training with us here at like Camp Edwards down the Cape. And then, every few years we would send a unit or two down to Panama to do training with them down there. And it was really cool to be able to get that, the experience of these, Panamanian soldiers that like, this is what they do, this is how they train, and just learning, a different, culture, a different way of, how they soldier, to be able to add that into your toolkit and be able to, take things from them and learn it to be able to, be a better soldier yourself. And it really just, to me, little things like that were the best part about serving, going to Germany and being, 19 years old, being able to pull people over, as an MP, I was like, this is great. I'm 19, probably first class, and, I get to pull over, majors and colonels, and, I get to be the stereotypical, dink of an MP. And then, like, after about a week, it got old. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of pulling our own guys over, It's like, then it was like, all right, I'm going to find a place where I can just, like, take a little relax. And, like, I'm only going to pull people over if they do something completely stupid right in front of me. And, like, I had a guy on a 15-passenger van almost run into a motorcycle. I'm like, I got to do something about that guy, But it was like, you see that everyone's in the position, like, I don't knock, an MP that was stuck in garrison doing the law and order mission, because that's what their unit was, doing. I don't, knock the firefighters that are stuck stateside, because of the rotation, everybody's doing their own, lane and responsibility, and, without the admin clerks, we don't get paid. Without the admin clerks, we don't get our leave to be able to go home and see our families, Without, supply, we don't get the gear that we need to fight, You need all these MOSs to come together to work to be the well-oiled machine that we are, and you need, the NCO Corps that we had that, like, I never saw any other country have. Like, that's one difference between us and, all these other multinational units is, our NCO Corps and the responsibility that we give them. A lot of other countries, the NCOs are just, kind of like a paper promotion instead of actually like responsibility, where we, give the NCOs the ability to lead and, take charge, and we know the mission's going to get done. Over there, it's like, yeah, we just kind of pencil whip them, and, they're not really in charge of anything. It's still the officer that does everything.
Just something else. I think a while ago it used to really bother me, and then it's like, well, you just, when someone says these kind of things, I'm like, okay, you're just not educated, you're not informed, you're not knowledgeable. I'm not going to change their mind, but I'm certainly going to sit there and say, if I'm pressed upon it, well, here's the VA's definition of a veteran. And the VA is the federal, entity that represents all veterans, and this is what they consider a veteran, and I meet that criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've got a problem with that, hey, here's a news. If you have a problem with that, don't talk to me about it. How about you go talk to your congressman or woman, and get a law passed to get it changed. Oh, you won't do that. You'd rather sit there and talk down on their veterans and actually go and try to get something done. And it's unfortunate, but I'm like, I don't get bothered by them anymore. One thing that I did want to ask you tonight is there's a story out. I've got to look it up, and I'm going to try looking it up now. Let's see here.
So, Dar, just let you know for the preference for having served, we do get preferential hiring for civil service jobs, and for federal jobs. Federal jobs, you'll often be able to buy back the time that you served in the military to go towards your federal retirement, and you also get points to be put on the top of lists, like the hiring preference. Like, say if it's between you and another person that lives in the town, but like you're a veteran, we'll give you a couple extra points to put you on top of the list. Your veteran preference will give you, 5 points here and there to be able to push you to the next rate, so that way you'll be able to be hired over other individuals. Oh, no, not a problem. And this is what you're sharing now, the beard.
Yeah, I got asked about this the other day, and I was just canning. I'm like, okay, it happened in 2023. You got to look at what was he had to almost sue to get in, but I don't consider him a Marine. I just don't. I mean, to me, one of the things that the ritual of going through and getting your beard, your haircut, and all that, we were all like each other. We were all treated the same, regardless of our religion, regardless of our personal affinities or proclivities. That's the way we were treated. To have allowed this to happen, I'm like, I'd have a hard. He's not the same as me because he didn't go through the same experience I did. He didn't have his identity stripped away. He got an exception, and I got called a bad name for it, but I'm like, no, that's different. I mean, it's part of the Marine Corps developing esprit de corps. So,
yep.
I really have a problem with it. Great. He's a Sikh and fantastic. Not my problem.
So right now I'm saving the couple images right now, so that way I can share them as overlays with the folks, so they can see what we're talking about here. So let me just go back in the year. So TC May agrees with you. She's Navy. Let's go. I want to leave overlay. If I add it, it'll show it. Okay. So I'm going to add these files. I have two people in this. I have the Marine Sikh that you were just talking about, and then I also have an Air Force gentleman that is a what do they call it when you're like a traditional Jewish man, like an old school like a traditional or something. I'm not sure, but like same thing. The clause for having a beard in the service. And the other thing that I can touch base on this too is all right. So here is the one you were speaking about, Travis, right?
I'm sorry.
Is this the gentleman on the
Yep.
And then this gentleman here is a colonel that's taking command of a U.S. Air Force duty station base, and you can see that he's got the full beard going on there too. And folks are all angry about it in the comments, and they shared what was going on and what they thought of it, and I just felt that we really need to see what these folks are really up to with all this, and like how we can how we can continue it, and how we can, like you said, not make them be separated from that. Everybody's going through and being treated like dog crap, and that's part of the breaking you down to build you up as a team. That's part of the, like you said, it's part of the losing your identity, so you become one, so you become that group of people that, you become the Marines, not a Marine. You become soldiers together, not just a soldier. It's that group identity that really that separates you, and that says when you're downrange, you can trust that person to your left and your right, and you don't have to worry about it because you've gone through those the similar suck and you've made it out to the other side. So it's just like, that's tough. But then you also have the situation where you've got these folks with what did you call them in the Marine Corps? If you had like a no shave from the doctors?
Well, a lot of it's primarily, black men or dark green Marines, and I saw a couple in boot camp and served with one of them. And no matter what he did, man, he would get these bumps and ingrown hairs that were just painful. So what he did was would let it grow out and then shave it, let it grow out and shave it, just to. And the command saw it. You could see it on his face. You could tell it wasn't comfortable. So that was one thing, but this secret saying gas mask. It's not what I understand. I mean, you cannot get a good seal with that gas mask, as you know, Mikey, unless it's skin to skin.
So that right there is an actual falsehood. With the pro mask. I unfortunately my neck here when I shave, multiple days in a row, I get the redness, the bumps, the almost like the rash upon a rash. Like it comes out so much that if you would go shave over it, you're just cutting open all these little bumps and your whole neck is blooded up and it physically hurts. The whole day you're walking around with this red open sore on your neck and your face because of the shaving. So I got what was a shaving profile in the Army. I think it's called a shaving chit or something in the
there's no shave chit in the Marine Corps.
Yep. So that's what you guys got. So I got a no shave profile in the Army, and what it says is you can grow your hair out to be 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. That's as far as it can go. You can't style or shape it. You have to just let it, naturally, and then you can take an electric razor and you can trim it to the 1/4 inch. But that was it. You can't have a full man shoe. You can't have a goatee. You can't do anything like that. You just have to say, this is coming in this way. This is how it's gonna stay. I'm gonna trim it down because it does primarily affect a lot of American males. A lot of people feel like them targeting the shaving profile as a means to end careers is a knock towards people in that demographic, because they're saying if you have a medical profile that lasts more than a year, you need to be reevaluated and seen if you can stay in the service because of it. And a shaving profile to me was one of those profiles that's not a showstopper. It's not making you non-deployable. It doesn't say, hey, you can't do this because you got the profile to not shave. You can still do all your missions. You can still do all your work. You can still shoot, move, and communicate. And when you do the pro mask and you do the seal inside the gas chamber, or you do the machine that hooks up and does make sure you've got a solid seal on it.
Yeah.
Both of those I was able to do with the 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch facial hair. So you're able, when you take the air out of it and you can do the stop and clear of the pro mask, it it sucks to your face enough that it gets through that. The gentleman we just showed though with the longer beards, they may be the outlier that that causes the pro mask to not function properly. I don't know, because I never had to go that far, but just the guys with the no shave profile, that does not, it's not enough hair to affect being able to get a good seal on your mask. I was able to go inside the chamber. They got the little CS canisters, and they're walking right by everybody. Trying to get a good whiff to see whose mask is not sealed. I was always able to to seal and clear it, and then go back in and do the test on it afterwards, and always go at the station. So I just want to say that that's not the reason to be kicking these gentlemen out. So I don't understand why we're going after somebody like that when, like, if you're gonna go after people that are on a profile, go after the guy that can't do his PT test because he's got chronic ankle sprains, or he's got a shoulder that's completely messed up, and he'll be able to do a push-up or a pull-up again in his life. Like those guys that aren't able to do the combat readiness, I can see going in, talking to them, and like saying, all right, you've got like a 3 on your profile that says it's going to be a few years before this gets better. So right now we're going to look at separating from the service and seeing if you can come back later on. But like right now you're not meeting your obligation for the contract and like giving it to those guys. But like a shaving profile, I don't see that.
Well, I mean, Memorial Day is coming up in a couple weeks. You got anything going on?
Yeah, we got one thing that's coming up this week. Also, too, did you see the lieutenant colonel and the sergeant about the PT test?
I gotta look that up. Someone said, "Dude, you gotta check that out." That lieutenant colonel had like a meltdown or something.
Yeah, can you on the hold on, I'll get it on the screen real quick. Well, we have the 22 for 22 is coming up with hidden battles.
Oh yeah,
and that's always a good time. Folks can come up to Hebrew, New Hampshire, and be able to see what's going on in the world of hidden battles. They do a lot of great work. Not just with veterans, but they also do first responders. They've got programs that are setting up now called like the Foot Soldiers, where like you can work with them doing different things. Like you can do like an event here, you do an event like at other places, and they'll actually sponsor you as a runner or a walker or a hiker to be able to go and do the different events with them. So that way you can spread, the hidden battles message while you're doing these events that you already were going to do. So it's, it's pretty cool to see that happening. And then we're 2 weeks away from Memorial Day. And, it comes up so quickly that, I always worry that I'm going to miss something and not be able to, be there and, know what I need to do and, help everybody that's, that needs help or, needs honoring each year, because I feel like, I'm only one person and there's only so much that I can do. And I just want to be able to, let folks know that, I want to honor their service. I want to honor their friends, but, I can only be in so many places at once. And, as long as, people understand that, then that'll be, it'll be okay. All right, I'm gonna pull up the lieutenant colonel screaming.
Then I got a new
Yeah,
task.
now-
I'll have to leave here in a second.
All right, I got it. I'm gonna do this quick share screen right now, and then we'll cut out. Okay. We're gonna share screen.
Hey, listen, man, you that, man. Don't put your goddamn hands on me. Get off the goddamn road.
So we're running an FT.
That's right. But hey, you're running an AFC. You're impeding the way. All right? Act like you goddamn private. I told you to get off the fucking road. Hey, listen, man, you that, man. Don't put your goddamn hands on me.
So that was the the event between these guys, and it's just it's crazy to see a lieutenant colonel behaving that way, and how the situation unfolded.
It's never good when the brass acts like that. I don't care what it is. It's never good. And props to the sergeant first class, female or not, female, male or not, for sticking up for himself and saying, hey, I was doing my job. And I both know on the PT course, the rifle range, things like that, when the COIC lays down the law, I don't care what rank you are, they're in charge. Their word is law. Okay, you finish your test there, then you have words. You don't drop the gloves during that. Right, it's sergeant first class, not just Geronimo.
Yep. And to be called out like that, too, and to be screamed at in front of her soldiers while she's either conducting the PT test or finishing the PT test, that has priority over the road, not some lieutenant colonel going on a run on his own or going for a run with a couple of his buddies. That physical fitness test is the priority in that specific area, and it doesn't matter what his rank is. You want soldiers to be doing their best on something that's going to matter for their careers, not a jog for PT.
Bad luck, man. Bad luck. I mean, I both know stuff does happen, and now, man, I mean, people carrying cell phones all over the place. I'm surprised you don't see more stuff, but generally, what's supposed to happen if he's really got his pains in a wad like that, he gets a sergeant major or her boss, her officer boss, and has it out with them. Not right there. And you could see she had some backup too. Like, hey, sir, you're kind of out of line here. And he just stepped all into it. He was going all the way. So he hopefully learned a good lesson there. And he probably won't, but she's owed an apology for certain. Doesn't deserve that. Because I both know, Mikey, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong when you're doing that. So are you still here with me? I don't know where he went. I gotta give another 2, maybe 3 minutes, and then I gotta retask. Yeah, well,
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
yeah.
All right. We got our special guest hopping on.
Tommy, I taken with a wand.
Mhm.
Can you say hi to Travis tonight?
I saw it.
Hello. How you doing, honey?
Good.
Good to see you. You're getting
Okay,
so
see,
big.
Can you say hi to the chat too? Who we got? We got Jar, said give Emilee an extra hug for her. Big hug for you.
All right, Mikey.
And you say, Travis, have a good show tonight.
Had a good show tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What do you got going on tonight, Travis? Who's on?
I have Carol Whitmore, the commander-in-chief for the VFW.
Excellent. So, guys, check out Oscar Mike Radio on all your podcasting destinations right here on Facebook. Yes, go ahead, Munchkin.
Where you with Travis?
He's in Abington.
Ooh.
I'm in Abington, South Shore.
Yep, he's got a big mansion. Mm-hmm.
No.
A castle. Mm-hmm.
No, I got a big castle.
Okay, go ahead. One last question. And then Travis has to go.
So what? What is what you said? But I will not understand.
That's okay. Just wish Travis good luck and tell him to have a great night. Just say good luck and have a good night.
Hi, good luck and night.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Travis, we'll catch you soon. I'm going to say bye to the chat, and then I'm going to head out. But thank you, Travis, for another enjoyable evening. And
All
I
right.
will. I'll see you next week, brother.
You got it.
All right, chat. It's you guys, me, Emily, Jose. Come on, buddy. Up. And we got where is he? Jose.
And bye.
Yeah, mention.
Bye, other people.
Say good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Say thank you for make sure you guys like and subscribe.
This way, but it looks like I go this way.
Yeah, it's a mirror effect, Munchie.
But I was like, really?
All right, guys. Thank you again. Just remember, everything's going on. Make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of your resilience, and find something that makes you, want to keep the fight. Something like this. So, love you guys. One love. Talk to you guys soon. Fish out.